I'm here in lovely Durham, North Carolina for DjangoCon US 2024. And with me, I have our newest Django Fellow, Sarah Boyce. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, Jay.
Sarah, how many DjangoCons have you been to?
Ooh, this is my first DjangoCon US.
Okay.
But I've been to one DjangoCon Europe.
Okay, how do they differ?
Ooh, good question. Okay, I mean, I guess DjangoCon US, there's this continuity between like the organizer team and such. And so I think each DjangoCon Europe is always a little bit different because it's usually an entirely new team. So I think they put a little bit of a different spin on it. But I think it's largely a similar structure. So you've got, the talks and such. I think, I'm not sure if we got breakfast in Europe.
Oh, we win.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, I guess the structure is largely the same in that some talks were going on at the same time. I think last time there were workshops during the conference rather than, I think, with this one, it was the weekend
day before. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the same ingredients are there, but maybe ever so slight changes of choices.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see a lot of the practices that like DjangoCon US implemented. You start seeing them across all of the conferences, not just other DjangoCons, but like PyCon US will do some things, or you'll see even small regional conferences pick up on something. And speaking of regional, what has been your favorite part about being in Durham?
Probably this ice cream place we went to last night.
Oh, awesome.
Actually, we bumped into you and a number of other people who were.
I've had that a lot. I've bumped into people.
I think, there are a number of places that, in fact, a lot of people have talked about the different food and restaurants that they've been to after the conference, and it's all like walking distance from where this is, and people were saying how lovely that is. And so it's been a really nice experience where you also just bump into other people who are at the conference, and you can talk to them or not.
I think that's one of the really nice things about DjangoCon, and I think PyCon US does this as well, but like DjangoCon runs on kind of this 2-year location rotation. So usually like they're in an event 1 year, and then the next year they'll be in the same event. So unfortunately this is like the last year for Durham, but the nice part about that is last year there was a whole lot of exploration, and then the second year coming, there was like this level of excitement about going to all the places that you went to the year before. And funny enough, like the ice cream place that we went to has so much history for me because it was the location of like our first Black Python devs meetup, which really grew. That whole community grew out of kind of this DjangoCon event. So that being said, like if you're attending in the future, it's a great opportunity to like build a sense of community, but also it gives you something to really look forward to the following year. And trust me, you'll go to one and you'll absolutely want to go to future ones. So I mentioned before that you're like our newest Django Fellow. Kind of go into a little bit of detail, like what it is a Django Fellow does.
Right, good question. So Carlton Gibson, who's a former fellow, he likes to describe it that we're like the janitors, and that we're supposed to do the work that other people wouldn't really want to do in their spare unpaid time kind of thing. I don't think that's entirely...
You make it sound really wonderful.
Super miserable. No, but Django is a really large project. There is a lot of activity where people raise new tickets every day, new pull requests every day that need to be reviewed. The tickets need to be checked as to whether this is the kind of thing we want to include in Django or not. Is this a bug or not? And all this kind of stuff. And then there are also security reports, and they need to be validated. And then if they are valid, you need to do security releases. So it's mostly around greasing the wheels, making sure everything keeps working as it should. But we don't do it alone. Like there are many teams within Django and many quite prolific contributors who do a lot of the work with us, who also do PR reviews, also are active on track and in the forum and all these discussions around how Django works. And so
Definitely. And you get to meet some of those folks here.
Yes.
And have those how have those conversations gone?
It's been really, it's the best thing. It's the, in my opinion, it's the best thing about DjangoCon is I get the opportunity to really meet a lot of the people that I've been working with online or talking to, and I can finally meet them in person. And such as Natalia, who's the other fellow who I'd not met in person until this conference. So it's a great opportunity to, get some people in the room, and you can really, tell them how much you appreciate them and the stuff that they do. And yeah, it really adds a different layer of color to what you know about them as a person when you get to see them.
I think one of the other things that is really cool is that you kind of see people's personalities through some of the talks that they've given. Mm-hmm. Has there been like a talk that kind of stood out for you?
Mm. Well, one of the talks that was happening today that I thought was just really quite beautiful and brave was, I think it's called Developer 2.0. And it was just, I was impressed with how Mark was sharing his personal journey and about, the choices that we can make to make our lives better. And it's not actually a technical talk. And I often quite enjoy the non-technical talks because I come away with something that is perhaps a new perspective that I can take away in my life. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah, no, I also agree that I think sometimes we come into DjangoCon looking for insight on like a very technical like piece. Mm-hmm. And I think coming in kind of wanting to get a question answered almost puts you at a disadvantage because you're just constantly listening for that answer. But then when you come in and you're just like, I kind of just want to like absorb what's happening in that moment, you can still learn about a lot of really cool technical things. And I mean, of course, people have their schedules that they really want to check out. I really want to go to this talk, or I really want to check this keynote out. Yeah. But I think just having a really open mind, like if you're coming in, having a super like, whatever it is, I've never heard of this person before, or I've never seen this person before, or I don't know who they are. They're giving this talk on this thing that I've never heard about. Let me go just check it out. I think that's how you really get some of the different perspectives that maybe you don't hear all the time, especially not on YouTube, which also, you're watching this on YouTube, so be sure to like subscribe and do all that stuff. But yeah, back to the conference. What about some of the conversations you've had with maybe like first time or people who are kind of relatively new to either Django or the Django community?
Well, it's been a bit bizarre as an experience for me because some people are coming up to me, sometimes knowing who I am, and I don't necessarily know who they are. And so it's quite, I think the Django community is really welcoming, and there's so many people that I've had so many interesting conversations, both like, whether you're at the breakfast table or, in the hallway or something like this. And also with newcomers, it's always great to see them engage with the different people at the conference and, bring in their perspectives. Everyone's always been super friendly, so yeah. Yeah,
it's scary. The first DjangoCon I went to was one that I was asked to speak at, and in that moment, I felt like such an imposter because I wasn't using Django in my day-to-day. So it felt like what of value can I bring to the conversation? But I think one of the really interesting points about the Django community, just en masse, especially at DjangoCon US, is that whether you've built hundreds of websites with Django, whether you've built used other frameworks, even other languages, I think that everyone really just wants to learn, and they want to learn from the experiences that you have, even if you've never written Python before. One of the things I really like that we do is there's usually a Django Girls event that's like the day before.
Yes.
And we had our own little event happening, and it just happened to be right downstairs from like a Django Girls event. So I got to actually see like people building their first Django projects ever,
Yeah.
and then being able to take that, excitement and momentum into coming into a conference like DjangoCon US, just to be like showered by like super empathetic people and people who just like absolutely care for that individual and that good first time like Django experience. And also you're talking to the people that like really dictate where that language is going, or where the framework is going. So if there were like bad experiences, those get taken to heart. It's not just like, oh, well, that's Django for you. It's like, oh no, it's like, no, please tell us why. Like, how can we make this better?
Yeah.
So I think that feedback loop is like really wonderful.
100%. I actually, at lunch today, I sat next to a gentleman. He was wanting to deploy his Django application. It was the first time he was going to deploy it. And surprise, surprise, he was getting some problem with collect static, and it was not getting, and he couldn't figure it out. And and he was asking, Sarah DePrass, can you sit with me and help with this? And I'm like, actually, I don't feel massively confident with deployment, but I can sit with you through it. And and we tried some things and we got it through. And and as soon as he got that check mark on the GitHub Actions that it passed that little section, and he was like, "Oh, Sarah, I can shake you," and he like high fived and all this kind of stuff. And there's this joyfulness about doing things right for the first time and having that experience with other people, which it's really nice to be reminded that. And unfortunately, I didn't come early enough to get a chance to go to the Django Girls event, but I'm sure that is also a really great way to be with members of the community and to see them have their first experience making a Django application and hopefully getting some success. I hope. High fives all around. Yeah.
If anything, high fives will be had.
Yeah.
So speaking of people coming for the first time, like I guess we have some folks here that are considering going to a DjangoCon for the first time. So let folks know like what they need to know to be prepared for an awesome time at DjangoCon 2025.
Yeah, so I think there is so much to do in terms of there's so many talks, there's so many people, take your time with it. I think it's very easy to get quite overwhelmed with all of this new information, new people, etc. Remember that the talks will get recorded and they will be made available later. So don't beat yourself up if you decide to, not go to a talk and you want to take a little break, because taking a break can help you, sustain your energy throughout the conference without you feeling like too overwhelmed further on. And then, just really talk to people, because you'll be amazed how much people actually want to talk to you, and people are generally very friendly. And and if they're not, you can report them, because DjangoCon has a...
we don't do that. that tends to be the saying that goes.
We don't do that here, exactly. So, it's a safe space.
Awesome. Well, I hope you'll join us in this very safe of spaces for all the high fives that we'll have. Sarah, thank you for sitting in on this interview, and thank you for attending your first DjangoCon US. Maybe I should make my way over to Europe and attend a DjangoCon Europe, but hopefully we'll see you at DjangoCon 2025, and hopefully we'll see you too at DjangoCon 2025. But until then, I've been Jay Miller, and this has been my guest, Sarah Boyce, and thank you so much for watching. Take care.